on today, and very interesting news. Well, he showed up, and that's Electoral Commission chairperson. Now he's in the witness box, and he's the one telling his story. We, as usual, will help all of us understand what has been happening so far for the past hour and a half or so with Dr. Farijan there telling his story. That will be followed by the opportunity for cross-examination by Philip Addison, and so it's not over. We do not know for how long this whole period of examination in chief, if I got it right, will be going on. But for now, it's counsel for the EC, which happens to be the second respondent in this particular case, Kwashi Aidan, who is on the floor with the second respondent, also Dr. Farijan, doing the answering. Stay with us, and we'll say once again, welcome. My name is Henry Herbert Mam, and we have again here Dr. Maurice Ampao, who is going to help us with our discussion as usual. So he will walk us through legally what's issues that have come up really mean and what they have come to. We will see as best as possible if we can also cross over to Thomas Adote Papo at the Supreme Court to have him do some interactions as usual with lawyers who would have sat through all this hearing for today, and then what impressions they may have formed. So, Doctor, welcome.
Thank you. And
let's see what we can do as far as our understanding of today's proceedings are concerned. Now, it's been quite eventful. To start with, we didn't think that Dr. Farijan was going to show up. It was everybody's anticipation that yes, he shows up so that we can get clearly what has been going on or what took place actually in the 2012 elections. Fortunately, he did. Tell us, what signal has he sent to the bench and then to everybody else in the courtroom and to all of us by showing up there as he's actually the returning officer for the presidential elections. He's actually the main returning officer for the presidential elections. So what signal has he sent, not having delegated any of his deputies for that matter, but showing up there himself to do to give witness for that matter?
I think straightforward you can see that the signal is one clear that he attaches so much serious to the petition, because it's the first petition he's making history. He wants to be there, his name to be written, so he has come forward. Second signal is the confident level that look, I'm ready to accept what kind of responsibility, I'm ready for any interrogation, I'm ready to give credibility to the EC. The EC credibility is at stake, so you want the first gentleman to go out there to defend the EC, and that is exactly what Afrajan has done. He also has come out to say that look, I organized the elections, I take the blame and I take the praise, so I'm there to ensure that I speak on authority, and that is exactly what the signal that he has given. And thirdly, he has shown to everybody that initially when they started, people were saying that Afrajan was not attending courts. And he said that look, during the preliminary matters, you don't need to be in court. Therefore, when the time comes for the hearing, I'll be there. True to his word, Afrajan is there. So kudos to Afrajan, and he's doing a great work and a great job this morning.
Okay. So he's there finally, and like you said, to show how serious he feels about this whole thing, about his confidence, and to tell his story, represent the EC for that matter. But then an objection was raised by Addison as to why he actually is the one who has come, because he thought that initially affidavits sworn to were done by his two deputies, Amadou Sule and Safu Kantanka, if I got the names right. So why should he be the one to come?
I think the objection was overruled.
Sure.
Yes, and definitely it's in the right direction. Afrajan, being the head of the Electoral Commission, can speak on personal knowledge. He has personal knowledge of our elections. He's competent to be a witness. He has not given the power of attorney to anybody to represent him. Those officers that you mentioned just sworn at the field to attest to things that they've known. But Afarajan is a credible and competent witness, because whatever he's saying is of first hand. He knew everything at first hand. He's not going to make any hearsay statement. He's giving the court the original information coming from the original man Afarajan. So you can't do away with such a person. Therefore, once he did not give power of attorney to anybody, he has the right to represent the EC, and his right is enshrined in law, that under the rules of evidence, a witness is somebody who is very competent. He knows the thing as first hand, and he can dispose of everything. He understands the issues at stake. So why not?
Yes, so we have understanding of that. Objection overruled. And then he continues. And his counsel actually led him through a certain process, at least. Of course, the identification, who is, and all that. And to find out from him what he has been doing at the EC, when he took office and all that, and for how long he's been there. And looks like we've had some 21 years or so spanning of, he being a staff of the EC. I mean, he told all that story. What does that bring to his credibility and to the table in terms of the number of years he's been there? He was part of the 1992 elections as a deputy, and then he took over. So since 1993, he's actually been the chairperson of this commission all throughout up to now, and the number of elections that he's organized. Where else he's worked internationally, I mean globally, sub-region wise, on a continent, and all that. All those things were put together and delivered there. Where does that fit into the scheme of things here?
What actually the lead counsel is trying to establish is to create an impression in the minds of the bench that you have somebody who is not only competent but well experienced in electoral matters, and he has done it before. He has never been accused formally. He has done it before. He doesn't have any blemish record. He has never corrupted himself before. This is somebody who has organized several elections in the country, credible elections. People have won, people have lost, people have congratulated him internationally. So it is a way of telling the judge that the man in the witness box is not only competent, but an experienced man who has a good record. Therefore, whatever he's telling the bench should be accepted in that light. So it's a way of trying to tell the court how competent the man is and how experienced and credible he will be. So it's the way of enhancing his credibility and his competency as electoral commission.
And this is noted by the bench?
Definitely. They have. I am sure they have judicial notice. Even without,
obviously,
yes, judicial notice of
even without he telling this,
all
they know who
all
it
the
is.
judges. Let me make very one interesting statement that people will love it. All the 9 judges, they are Ghanaians. They have been in this country. They know the political issue of this country. They know the various elections that we have gone through. All the 9 judges did vote. They all voted in elections. We don't know which party they voted for, but they passed through the hands of the man. They have heard his name. They watch television. They know. So they have judicial notice of all that he's telling them. So even if it was not told, it was not made known to them. They know the man Afarajan. Who doesn't know Afarajan in this country? So they have judicial notice of his competency and his credibility, but now it's at stake because he has been challenged for once. So it's good to lay that solid foundation, and that is exactly what the counsel for the second petitioner has been able to do through the examination chief, trying to lead him to lay a solid foundation of his credibility, his experience.
So
and then
it's not just for purposes of being identified, but just also to, let's say, lend credence to his
definitely. You know, you have people, when you want people to respect you, you do what we call, you try to let people know who you are. Normally it's very, very important. This man is coming from here, from there. It makes you more credible, and people want to listen to you, and that is exactly what the second respondent counsel seeks to do.
He also then went ahead to talk about the process of what an election is. One of the definitions he gave is that it is a contest between candidates and contest decided by votes of the people. That's the first simple definition he gave to an election. Why would he be asked to define what an election is?
It's interesting, you look at the way the council for the EC is leading Afarajan. He wants to school all of us, not only the bench, although the case is in court, but it's an opportunity to school everybody who is watching. And so everybody is watching the experienced lecturer, that is Afarajan. So he looks as if he's giving a lecture, and it's very interesting to listen. And so the judges over there, trust me, most of them don't have the experience that the man have when it comes to elections. They are not known. Their experience is in law. Their expertise is in law. So some of them also, for first time, they are also being schooled.
You reckon they are enjoying what he's doing?
They are enjoying it. That's why
the reason why they overruled.
That is why they overruled Addison. The man's story is good. He's telling a story that everybody is being educated, including me. All of us here, everybody's enjoying. Now, Addison, why objection? Somebody is telling a story, you want, if you don't enjoy the story, sleep. It's simple.
I'm saying that the things that Dr. Afarajan, the things that he's been putting out there, most of them are not in his pleadings. They don't find them at all.
You see,
for him, it's storytelling. They've enjoyed the story up to a point that they think it's enough. He should just stick to the pleading.
You see, the court for the first time in rejecting the objection. Look at one thing. Although the man has not pleaded all these things that he has said, but they are so relevant to them because it will help them in making up their mind. Because most of the things that the man, Dr. Afarajan, is saying, they are hearing for the first time, is bringing meaning to the electoral process. So it is educative. So it's relevant. It's so much more important than even the pleadings. So they are saying that
walking everybody through the process,
and so
process of demarcation, process of numbering code and creating polling centers and all that.
Definitely. So the judges are not only enjoying it, the story to them is good. And then if you think that the story is not good, you just wait and then wait after telling the story, the boring story to you. That's Philip Addison and the petition. If you think that the story is boring, once the judge is not, the point is not complaining.
So it's not about just what you want to hear, even as a petitioner.
Yes,
but
no.
It's what even the judge is
under normal circumstances,
hearing.
Under normal circumstances, it is what you have pleaded. It's what you have to lead evidence on. But with this very particular situation, the judge is creating what we call an exception to the rule. That normally, if you don't plead, you can lead evidence on. But now they are looking at the relevance of what the man is saying. So they are saying that the relevance outweighs even the pleadings as at now. So they are saying that let the man say what he's saying, let the man school everybody because it is relevant. So that is at the position that he took. So at the end of the day, is the story will go on. They have to go on with the story. All that the respondent and philosopher has listened to do is to also listen to the story to help. Because as he's telling the story, it cannot always be a good story. He may tell the story, and the story also will benefit you, because some of the stories will also support your case. So if you realize that the story is boring, he has not pleaded, fine. It's a very good objection in law, but in relevance, I think the Supreme Court the majority took the view that the story relevant is more important.
And you find that he corroborates sometimes some of the things or issues that Asidu Nketia raised. For instance, about codes that show up on ballot sheets or so, alphabets that we see and the numbers that show regions, districts, and all that. He took his time and went through them one after the other.
What do you expect Afarajan to do? To come and contradict Asidu Nketia? They are together. They are the respondents. They are responding to petitions. So definitely, although Asidu Nketia also told a story, but he's not an authority when it comes to electoral matters. What Asidu Nketia is saying is opinion. Now we have the one who conducted elections. and is speaking on authority. So if he collaborates, fine. If he doesn't collaborate, fine. But at the end of the day, I believe that the position of Afarajan there should be an independent referee. That's how I should say it. I don't think he should support each of the parties. Afarajan should be a neutral witness who must come and speak the truth. He should lay bare the truth. He should not be seen to be supporting the respondent, the first and third respondent against the petitioners. At the end of the day, his only duty is to unravel the truth, let the truth prevail. So I'm expecting Afarajan to be truthful to the court, to admit when he ought to admit, to apologize when he ought to apologize, and to accept when he has to accept. That is his role, but not to be seen to be partial. Because at the end of the day, he has nothing to benefit or lose. He's a referee, and all that is happening to him is to come and assist the court to determine whether the petitioner has a case or not.
Or not. I find also quite interesting something he said about, elements of a biometric system. The fact that for him there are two main elements: one capturing the fingerprints of people, and also capturing the photographs. And also going ahead to talk about the fact that it looks like even throughout the session, the monitoring and all that, it's only Ghana in this whole world that allows for the presence of agents while they start in the middle of all these things. When they start developing a register, how they capture this information, how they collect data on you and all that, we are the only country in the world that allows for party agents, meaning party agents having part of this process all throughout.
Well, definitely nobody is denying the fact that party agents do not take part. They play a role. But the issue, this
is a plus for us, isn't it?
Yes, it's a plus.
That has been recommended to other countries
to take it up. And the reason why it is so is that we don't trust each other in the country. We don't believe ourselves. In the other jurisdiction, it's not happy because people are more credible. People will not do the wrong things. But Ghana here, trust me, we don't trust. We are always suspecting one another. Therefore, we want everybody to be involved in the process. And I like the posture of Afarajan this very morning because of the way he's delivering. I was looking at him, his demeanor today and his demeanor before the elections. Before the elections, Afarajan, in my opinion, was very, very assertive. It was very
authoritative.
Yeah, very authoritative. But now you realize that at the court, the day of reckoning, accountability. So you see different Afarajan today. His demeanor, his composure, it's quite different from before the elections.
How do you see it now?
Now he's before the judgment seats. The day of accountability has fallen on him. He must go there with all the soberness and to account for his stewardship. The whole nation trusted him to conduct a credible election, which is free and fair. And he has done it. People have called that credibility into question. Now is the time for him to go and defend it. So that is his demeanor. And I think that ought to have been his demeanor before the elections. If he has done that, it will calm nerves. But I think he enjoyed the independent more, in my opinion. But if the way I'm seeing Afarajan today, before the elections, if he was like, oh, let's come together, let's reason together, that attitude. But you realize that you got to a stage, it was like, look, you can take your opinion, I decide. When even creation of the constituency, people have to come here and say, no. But today, it's a different Afarajan altogether. I'm enjoying it.
He's spoken to one very important item about the face onlys, those who are registered who would not have had the opportunity to use their fingers because they had problems, 70,951, and I think contradicting the figure that the petitioners had put out there, some 3,000 plus or so. And for him, he's saying even just a region alone would have had more of that figure than the petitioners put out there. So virtually contradicting what the petitioners have.
Yeah, definitely, and that's exactly what we expect him to do. You cannot come and collaborate the evidence of your opponent. So it is up to him to also lead evidence on that. It is not only coming to tell your story, but you must lead credible evidence on the issue at stake. Now it is your word against the word of the petitioners. So both parties have stated their position. The petitioners are basing their evidence on the pin sheets that are according to the pin sheets and whatever information they have. To them, the FO is 3,000, and then the EC is saying that no, it is more than that. So it's up to the court of the trial of facts to look at the facts and determine whether who is actually credible in this stance. So let's leave that to the court.
He's been giving some facts. He's been giving some facts, about people who are registered abroad and all that, really locations, and the fact that almost, in fact, everybody who was registered abroad was given a polling center within that is in the country, and emphatically stating, and nobody voted outside. Nobody voted outside as far as is concerned. These are also issues. These were issues also raised in the petition.
Yes, definitely. Afraja have to explain. We expect him to explain all these issues very well, because I have just told you that his evidence will do or undo the petition. His answers will also determine so much whether the respondent will succeed or not. So he's doing well. It's early day yet, because the major issues are yet to unfold. The council is just scratching. That's how I'm seeing it. The issues that the petitioners have raised have not been touched. The issues of overvoting has not come. The issues of the presiding judge's signature have not come. The issue of serial numbers is yet to come. The issue, whether it's a security features or not, have not been addressed. The issue of voting without movement, all those issues, as of now, they are not being addressed. All that Afredan is trying to tell us that he's trying to walk us through the electoral process, and that's why the petitioners think that they don't touch on the issues. But you can't force the second respondent to do the case that will inconvenience you. They are doing their case, so allow them. So I think as time goes on, the counsel for the second petitioner must now dwell on the issues before the court, the concerns of the petitioner. I think our secretary have been able to deal with it, head on head. Now we want to hear the Electoral Commission on the issue of overvoting, on the issue of voting without representation. Sure. All those things are those ones that will determine the matter before the court.
Okay, and we will be hearing from him, possibly, isn't it?
Definitely.
When they come back from the break, which they have giving a code to, C. Oh, what's our code?
Let's go D.
Okay.
I think I don't know whether the pace of the EC council will fast track the examination chief. The way we are going.
Okay.
If you don't take care, today we will not finish the examination chief, and then tomorrow is holiday. So then Monday.
But he seemed to be giving out some very good information.
Oh, definitely. But since morning, we are still on the electoral process, and we are not touched on the main issues for determination.
What about his issue about the allocation of ballot papers, in fact ballot booklets? That also is a major issue. And this issue about 10%, the number of people who are entitled to vote at a particular polling station. Normally you have ballots given in excess of 10% just to make up for spoilage and all that, and he is also explaining that it's not always the case, but just speaking to facts, but practically it's not always the case.
Yes, it makes sense, and I think everybody listening to him will know that he has made a lot of sense, and that's why I'm saying he's a man of authority when it comes to electoral matters. So Baomia's position on that is on authority, is view, and once the man in the authority have explained, then it's sit down well with somehow. It's not everybody. Maybe may not sit down well.
These are positions that Philip Addison possibly might challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But if you challenge, if you challenge, I don't know, based
on perhaps the evidence that
definitely you can challenge. But I don't know, he has made a very serious explanations, which is so credible,
even to the extent of telling people that they are speaking to facts, but also exposing their ignorance.
I think Philip Addison has a tall order to undo him in that particular issue. But I don't think that particular issue will have a serious effect on the outcome of the petition, because there are more serious issues.
He also gives the indication and the impression as well that party agents are involved almost all throughout. I mean, earlier he said that this is the only place on planet Earth that you have party agents being part of even registration exercise and all that. And for him, even to the stage of printing of ballots and everything, they've always involved the party officials and all that. Is that to suggest that they have never done anything in secret, and that they have been putting information out there together with the party and all that, and so issues being raised then perhaps have not come in a direction that they would have expected?
Well, definitely you cannot run away from the fact that the party who contested the elections were involved in most of the electoral process. The electoral process was very somehow transparent when it comes to the beginning of the process, registration, and then all those agents were involved. But those issues are one issue. You can take somebody through all the processes, but what happens on election day can be economic. So it's like you take people through school, you teach them all the subjects, but in the exams they may commit a mistake. So the fact that you've trained somebody and give him all the necessary information, if he goes on the exams day and then could not deliver, the person fails.
Is that can you make a connection between what you're saying now and what he also said about recruiting temporary staff? Really is a problem for them. Has always been the problem for them, because staff from within do not actually get involved in the field work on election day.
He's trying to shift blame. He's trying to tell you that the permanent staff, those under his control, they don't get involved in the administration of the election that day. So the difficulties he's trying to lay from the dialogue. These people are part-time, who it will be very difficult for even to know their political colors, and you don't know the agenda most of them have. So this volume of part-time staffs, very difficult to control. So he's trying to lay a foundation that if they go out there and commit errors, you blame the commission. So indirectly he wants to establish something that he doesn't have so much direct control of those the engages, unlike the permanent staff where he can control them. But at the end of the day, the elections were governed by law. So whether you train or you don't train, whether you have a volume of staff, on the election day, the right thing ought to be done and must be done.
He's laying a foundation about the numbers involved. I think over 200,000.
Yes, all those things. I think he's trying to lay a foundation that the court should sympathize with the electoral commission. It's an issue of his sympathy when he leads evidence to say that look at the volume of the number of people we have to engage. Then he went out to say at times it's a difficult thing even getting them. All these things, evidence is eluding them in an attempt to tell them the court. The tribunal, court of tribunal, that is the panel of judges, that look, it's not an easy thing to organize elections. You need extra hand, more than 100,000, and then he's trying to lay a foundation that when you have such a volume, a number of staff, there are bound to be problems. So that is how he's going to lead us to. But at the end of the day, what is more important is how he's able to lead those evidence that concerns the issues at stake. So let's see how it's unfold, and I believe that the story will still continue, but I'm praying that the story will start touching on the issues at stake. Okay.
Now, what kind of foundation has he laid with what we have done in this, if I may term it, first half? What kind of information or foundation has he laid? Having walked through when he joined, how many elections is involved with Ghana, on the continent, globally, coming back home, what the election process, when it started, those who were involved, the parties, technicalities involved, and the difficulty in getting others apart from their permanent staff to also get involved. In your mind, if you were to be sitting on a case like this, what foundation would he have laid for you and for himself?
He has laid a solid foundation of competency. That is a man of competence, a man of experience. He has laid a foundation of transparency, that he got all the parties and the stakeholders involved in the process. He was not a dictator. He didn't run an election which is not known. He has also laid a foundation of sympathy, that giving the tax ahead, giving the responsibility, where you have to rely on more than 100,000 staff to conduct the election, then the court should know that the tax has not been easy. So these are the three foundations that he has been able to. And then the last foundation is educating the bench on the electoral process so far.
Now, if you were on the other side, on the side of the petitioners, Addison, who is leading the attack, what will be going through your mind? As you say, obviously they've raised an objection. They think storytelling is too much, it's not part of their pleadings and all that. But the man is also laying a foundation. I mean, as has been alluded to by you. What will be going through your mind as you prepare to also take him on? Ask questions, questions that will attack the credibility of all that he's put out there.
Now you realize that the petitioners counsel, Philip Addison, will also be finding ways and means to attack those foundations. One is credibility, competency, and experience in the past will be attacked. Now is conduct during the elections, before, during, and after will be an issue. Then they also look at the issue of the electoral process and the role that his own administration, where that is directly responsible for administering not only an effective election, but a very transparent and free and fair elections. What he said and what he did not say, or what he did, or what he has refused to do, any negligence on his part, by ensuring that the process is not only fair, but every stage of the process was governed by law. So, for example, they will be telling him to read certain provisions and sections of his own regulations, and then find out from him whether he has followed those regulations. You see, this is where the interesting aspect. So, like Philip Addison and co are just waiting for the man to start touching on the issues at stake, the issues of overvoting, and the man is not. So they are not comfortable. They think that we are wasting time. Why we are here is not about your competency. It's not about the sympathy. It's not about the electoral process. We all know. Go straight to it and find out whether your own rules and regulations were followed by your men who organized, and whether you should not be held responsible for even recruiting incompetent staffs. If you are saying that they are not full time, and so they will begin to ask them, so what? Didn't you rely on them? And if you rely on them, and then at the end of the day there is a mistake, shouldn't be held responsible than to shift them. So they will also find ways and means to also try to destroy the foundation. So they are just waiting for the foundation to now settle on the issues at stake, so that they can have more information. But as now they have their way out to destroy the foundation. So trust me, their lawyers are also thinking through the box, and they will do what every lawyer would do. When you want to lay a solid foundation, they will destroy the foundation.
For instance, I think what everybody might be waiting for now has to do with issues to do with overvoting.
Seriously.
What's his interpretation of overvoting?
Because his interpretation will help.
What happens to voting without biometric verification? The nullification of votes, alleged, or let's say calling for nullification of votes, and interpretation of what happens in the pink sheet in terms of numbers that have been placed.
Definitely.
Those are issues.
Those are the issues that Philip Addison and co are pushing him to start with. And to them, all those that they have said are lecturing which does not touch on the substance. Go straight to it and then tell us what overvoting. So they want Philip Addison and question to ask what is overvoting your own rules. Then we then. But
obviously, you consider the foundation he's laying to as a credible one, as very important one to be able to stand on, to do his interpretation.
Oh, definitely.
And so he would not have helped himself at all if he were to just come in and say, okay, let's tackle overvoting.
Oh no, I think he has laid a solid foundation, but the petitioners think that the lectures are becoming too long. That
is it also not a case of perhaps thinking that he's building a very good case and strengthening what
you see
a credible posture of his. So then as lawyers, like you're saying, you attack the person's credibility. The more he tells a good story,
I'm looking at it from this angle. It's like the petitioners are like, oh, you are running away from the ones that will get you. It's like boxing. Instead of standing toe to toe with me, you are when I'm coming, you move around. That's what the petitioners are saying. Come and stand toe to toe with me, with whether there was voting or not.
That's jabbing.
That's the thing. No, it's not even jabbing. No, moving around. And they say that no. Let's stand toe to toe with the issues at stake. And that is where what is making them very they are getting frustrated with the way things are going. They wish that everything will boil down to Afrajan's interpretation of overvoting, and then whether it did happen, and then whether there was the presiding officers, whether their role, what are their duties in law, whether they validate or the role of the agents. They want to find out Afrajan's also opinion on agents' role in the elections. Do they validate the poll? All these things, including vote biometric releases, these are the issues that they think that counsel for the second respondent is not pushing so quickly, and they are not comfortable. They think that, look, time is on our side. Let's start toe to toe and start seeing whether we knock each other, and that's what they want. They want to fight on those issues than to talk about.
We'll take a break. When we come back, I want to find out. I mean, this is the most authoritative election officer as we speak now in our country. You know, he's seen us through all the elections in the Fourth Republic. Then he comes to give you a definition of what he knows to be perhaps elections or overvoting. You have to place that alongside what others are saying, participants to elections that he organized, and perhaps what you also think. Where would the pendulum swing? We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. We'll take this short break. Stay with us. Listening to him, Dr. Kojo Afra-Gyan. He happens to be the sole returning officer for the presidential elections, which is under dispute now. The results of which is under dispute now. There's a petition against it. It's in the Supreme Court, and that's what we have been, witnesses to for all this while. 25 official working days that we're being on, and so we're waiting for the Supreme Court to come back. They're doing some 1 hour of lunch break coded C as Justice Atuguba presiding Justice talked about. They are going to do their C, that's a lunch break, and then when they come back after an hour, we will also know from them how proceedings obviously will shape up. But a lot more things that people are expecting Dr. Afra-Gyan to speak to. We're speaking to Dr. Morris here, and it's about overvoting, which really is a contentious issue. We'll find out what definition Afra-Gyan will have for overvoting. As for those of you who have been listening to our submissions all this while and to what's been happening, Dr. Afra-Gyan has had his day even defining what an election is. So we'll find out what his definition of overvoting is. That's an issue that we wanted to speak to before we went on our break, or we took our break. Dr. Morris Ampa will speak to that issue, not necessarily to tell us what his views are about overvoting, but to put them alongside. We have seen one by Dr. Baumia, then one by Asudun Ketia. Both of them have had very different views and positions as far as what overvoting constitutes. We will be getting the side of the returning officer who organized the elections. That's a very, very important one. We want to find out what his position or his definition of overvoting is. But I'm saying, Doc, having heard from Dr. Baumia and his definition of overvoting, we see a very different one also from Asudun Ketia, who represented the first and third respondents here and also took part very well in the elections. These two people who took part in the elections, who now have issues with each other, have very different interpretations of what overvoting is. Now is the time for Dr. Afari-Gyan to tell us what his views or what his definition of overvoting is. We're all waiting for him. But I'm asking, assuming you are part of the bench today, where would you place Dr. Afari-Gyan's? Now, how much weight then also would you place on Dr. Afari-Gyan's definition of overvoting as against that which has come from Dr. Bawumia Asiedu Nketia, and what you also think overvoting is?
You see, normally what is going to happen is that Afari-Gyan will come out his own views, but his views are not binding on the members of the bench. His views are his opinion. They are what we call expert opinion. He may express an expert opinion on the matter, but they are not binding on the bench. Now you realize that the issue of overvoting, as expressed by the various witnesses, will be determined by the panel, and they are going to look at what overvoting per our laws, the electoral laws that we have. They will look per the laws whether there has been a definition of what overvoting is in the electoral laws. If they realize that they don't find, they look at electoral laws outside their jurisdiction. That's maybe because we normally we are bound. We also accept the authorities of other jurisdictions as persuasive. They are not binding on the Supreme Court judges. They may persuade them. So they also look at the common law, those who have similar jurisprudence, those who have similar system of administration of justice.
So it means that between this period and the time they are to sit and put their thoughts together, they will have to be doing some research to find out what overvoting constitutes.
Yes.
Elsewhere and even around us.
Yes, definitely they have to. And another day, they also use common sense. They also use common sense definition. When they say over, when people opt to vote, and then there is over. So they will use combination of all these to determine what overvoting is when it comes to our elections. Because maybe overvoting in other jurisprudence might be different. But they, after looking at all the overvoting definition per our electoral laws, look at the constitution, whether you can see overvoting under the constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. So, for example, if the constitution have defined overvoting, that will be the binding law. That will be the overvoting that we have to stick to. They will also look at the various electoral laws to find out whether they can find what overvoting is. Per what has happened, they also use common sense to determine what overvoting is. So at the end of the day, the views of the witnesses they are not binding on the bench. They are somehow persuasive. They can look at it, but whether there is overvoting or not is the decision of the panel members, the judges, and then it will be based on the majority view. Because it may surprise you that as the 9 judges sit, they may also have different views on what overvoting is. Some of them will buy into what Asiedu Nketia is saying, others will buy into what Bawumia have said, others maybe might buy into what Dr. Afari-Gyan have said. But at the end of the day, where the majority definition will go is what will be binding on us,
and that will constitute what overvoting will be in this country.
Or per our electoral laws, so that any time there is overvoting, we have a precedent set by the Supreme Court, and then that one will be used in our electoral future elections.
So this business of a problem with the definition of overvoting will be over by the time
the judges.
This case is over. We will know once and for all what overvoting is, and that will be a position that no other person would be able to challenge.
You can challenge on review, because if, for example, they take that position and then at review it changes, then the review panel of judges, the judges' majority decision on overvoting will stand forever and ever. It will stand until you have another Supreme Court case where the judges there thinks that overvoting definition is not proper, then they can change it.
If they go for, assuming this comes out and what's and that even goes for a review, and let's assume
it's the 9 panel members, they are split on what overvoting is. Now the majority will decide what overvote is. Now when there's a review, there's a challenge, and the review, you increase the number. So now we bring in another 2, and then 2 they come to change the definition per the majority. Then that definition per the review will be what is binding,
and you have to come in as the chairman of an electoral commission and go by that definition.
Definitely. But you see,
you cannot have your own definition.
No, you cannot have
in any way.
No. You don't exercise what we call final judicial power. Final judicial power is exercised by the judiciary. So their views of Afarajan, they are just an opinion. They are just opinion.
We will also possibly know that is if we're to continue with the use of biometric voting and whichever processes, whether from beginning to halfway or almost to the end or just to close through the use of the machine, we will know what voting with biometric system means.
Yeah, definitely.
Voting aspect of biometric system,
definitely.
What it means, that also will be defined here. Whether it should be a full process or you can go halfway having been identified, with the biometric register and your card and people attesting to the fact that you are the one. Whether that would constitute that, or then you have to go through all the process and still have your finger,
verified. That would be also an issue. The court will look at the issue. The EC will come out to say its position. Whether when they said voting, anybody who votes without biometric, it didn't use the word verification. What is verification?
Okay, so what is verification?
Also, yes, verification means verification.
Okay.
To verify doesn't mean you can only verify through the machines, or you can verify through people looking at you. So these all issues will be small issues that the court will also take a view. Because at the end of the day, the parties, the parties in the suits will address the court on all these issues. Remember, they will address the court before the court take a final decision. So they will also raise issues as to what biometric verification means, or when they say biometric system, do you have to limit yourself to the registration where biometrically you have been registered and captured, or you need to go through the verification. All these things, and trust me, the issue of no vote. You see that yesterday they used the audio.
Yes.
Trust me, I'm seeing more audios when Afarajan, because I realized that during the election, before the elections, Afarajan made certain statements, and all those things have come to play, even during Aseduketia cross-examination, where they asked him his opinion on those things, and then so definitely now the man is there, so I'm sure Philipati Semko will play it, and then he has to give interpretation to what he meant. All these things will come to play. So I believe that the issues will be raised. There will be various definitions and views, but at the end of the day, the views of the Supreme Court will prevail.
So Afarajan, for that matter, does not have the final say.
He can never have the final say. Under our constitution, the law says that the judiciary exercise final judicial power. So as Afarajan is not a member of the judiciary, he can't exercise final judicial power. His judicial power is limited to what he does at the EC. Now he's being challenged. So he's subject to the decision of the court. So what the court says is binding on him. And he fails to comply with, he will be cited for contempt of court. Or even, I don't know whether after he has retired, removed from office. So he has no choice than to go strictly according to the decision. And he made it clear that they were restricting people from voting until the Supreme Court make an order that voting should continue.
Okay. So a determination by the Supreme Court
will end everything.
Will end it, and will give you directions as to what you want to do
for future elections.
Even if you would have wished that your own rules,
even if you
look at things differently. Okay. So when he comes back, we'll be seeing evidence in chief.
Definitely.
Okay, continue from him with his.
I'm praying that when he comes back before 3:30, we should zoom into overvoting. To me, enough of it's good. It should speed up the lecture, then quickly start moving to the issues of overvoting, presiding officers, serial numbers. That is where the interest will be. And
this is not the time to heckle, is it?
No. You see, the only heckle that came is that the petitioners want a fast track executive chief, and they think that the man is just election. It's not touching on the substance of the petition.
Let's also look at the respondent. They will also be having their day, obviously to cross-examine him.
You see, the respondent, yes, it will depend upon.
Would that be after Addison has had?
Addison, yes. Okay. Then you have Chachishkata. It will depend on whether Afrajan evidence has any direct effect on them, whether it has somehow contradicted Asidus Kiti's position, and whether the evidence of Afrajan have done some damage to their case. Then they will subject Afrajan also to a very serious cross-examination to repair that damage. But if Afrajan's position is the same as Asidus Kiti, then they will not see the need for them to cross-examine.
Would that occasion arise?
Yes, definitely, because they are together. Because it's like Afrajan, although Afrajan, the second petition respondent is independent of the first and the third. They are together because the fall of the petitioner goes to his credibility, and then it also affects. He declared. So when you declared, and then later when they say your declaration is wrong, you see how your face will look like. So definitely they are trained one, and they are defending. The second petitioner is not only defending his credibility, is also defending the declaration, and then the first and third are defending their victory. So definitely they should be one. They should not be seen. A house divided against itself will fall. So they should not be seen divided against themselves. So I'm wondering whether Afrajan will come out, unless Afrajan is pushed to the wall through cross-examination to admit certain things that the first and third respondent thinks that it has actually hurt them. Then they will, through cross-examination, try to do some repair.